I was sipping lukewarm coffee when the post appeared tucked between a weather alert and an ad for linen jumpsuits I'd never searched for. My niece had uploaded a looping boomerang champagne flutes clinking ocean shimmering behind them. The caption read, "Ward Family Yacht Retreat Loading." Tradition continues. I paused thumb mid-scroll, the annual trip. The one I'd been invited to twice in 13 years of marriage. Once the year Jonas and I eloped and Portia was trying to be inclusive. The second 3 years ago when I suggested rotating the itinerary and was never asked again. I clicked the post open. The tags were there. Portia the twins, Aunt Evelyn with her oversized sun hat, and even that woman Tina, the Pilates instructor who once mistook me for Jonas's assistant at a holiday brunch. But not me. No text, no invite, no oversight. I didn't feel rage, just stillness. That kind of hollowness you get when something isn't surprising but still stings. I checked the family group chat, Ward Legacy Voyagers. Jonas had added me long ago. I searched for it anyway. Nothing. Either I'd been removed or it had quietly shifted to a new thread where my name never belonged. I put my mug down the crack near the handle, catching against my finger. I hadn't noticed it growing. That evening, Jonas breezed in, loosening his tie and kissing my cheek. His day had been fine. Mine had been invisible. "Did you see your sisters planning the yacht trip again?" I asked lightly. He frowned at his phone, then glanced up. "Yeah? I think Mom mentioned it. It's still early. I'm sure they'll add you." I nodded, like that meant something. After dinner, while he tuned out to stock alerts and half-watched baseball, I opened a blank note on my phone and titled it, "Things They Didn't Think I'd Notice." The first line I typed was, "Ward Family Yacht Retreat." No invite again. Then I closed the note, finished the dishes, and filed the feeling away, not as evidence, yet just memory. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing across the counter. A message preview blinked through the screen. Portia. The words underneath made my jaw lock. The message preview read, "Final cabin list confirmed." Excited, I tapped it open, expecting another group update I wasn't technically part of. But instead, what I saw was a screenshot clearly meant for someone else. A table of cabin assignments from the charter company. Neat columns, assigned bunks. My name crossed out with a red digital pen. Next to it, reassigned to Tina L. Tina, the woman who once asked if I managed Jonas's schedule. Beneath the image came a follow-up message. "Oops, wrong. Text. LOL. Just realized we might have missed reserving your spot. Total mix-up trip filled up faster than expected this year, but we'll catch up after, yeah." The emojis were like acid. I didn't respond. I knew I couldn't trust my fingers to stay polite. Later that afternoon, I showed Jonas the message. He read it once, then handed the phone back too quickly. "She probably just got overwhelmed." "Don't take it personally," he said, eyes sliding away like they always did when discomfort settled between us. I didn't answer him. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the email receipts from last year's charter. A few keystrokes later, I found the name of the company, the email trail, and a copy of the joint ownership agreement I had signed, though only one of our names ever came up in conversation. I printed everything. One by one, each document came out clean and sharp. I slid them into a manila folder, the same kind I used for tax prep. On the tab, I wrote in careful pen truth. I didn't write to Portia. Didn't send a message to the family chat. I just filed the screenshots and the receipts, then placed the folder in my bottom drawer next to appliance warranties and birth certificates. When Jonas walked past the open office door later that evening, he paused for a second like he might say something. He didn't. I didn't need him to. I already knew what came next. I used to think it was better to let things go. The wrong name on a place card, the family email chain that somehow skipped me, the Christmas itinerary with the time wrong until I showed up late and got blamed for missing the group photo. Portia once tagged the wrong Selena on Facebook, a woman in Florida with 3 kids and a pet lizard. I messaged her. She never fixed it. The photo stayed up for weeks. Then there was the baby shower for Rachel Jonas's cousin. I found out the day before. Portia said, "Oh, I thought you were out of town." I wasn't. I'd even sent a gift. Each time I swallowed it down, told myself, they don't mean it. Don't make it worse. But silence has a price. You don't realize how expensive it is until your name is quietly erased and no one thinks to ask where you went. Jonas stood by the doorway last night watching me add another printout to the folder. He didn't ask what I was doing. I didn't offer it. This morning, I opened the hallway cabinet and pulled out the original yacht paperwork. I hadn't looked at it in years. Not since we bought it. It was my idea. My investment. I'd even handled the down payment solo. But the accountant said it'll be easier if both names are listed for tax and trust purposes. So I added Jonas. Simple. Clean. No fanfare. Funny how paperwork can become prophecy. I ran my finger down the ownership clause, equal co-owners. No distinction. No matter what Portia's dinner toasts implied. I slipped the documents into the folder and zipped it shut. I wasn't packing anger. I was packing proof. Not for a confrontation. For my return. And this time I wouldn't knock. The wheels of my suitcase clicked over the wooden dock, steady and deliberate. I wasn't early, but I wasn't late either. Just on time, though not by their invitation. Ahead, the yacht curved sleek and silver against the sky, all polished rails and curated elegance. Portia stood near the boarding gate, her laugh mid-flight champagne flute tilted delicately in her hand. She didn't see me right away. But when she did, her face locked in place. Not shocked, just stalled. A beat too long a twitch behind her smile that never reached her eyes. Jonas was nearby, not beside her, but close enough to pretend neutrality. He didn't wave. He didn't move. The group turned gradually, like choreography rehearsed in whispers. Their bodies angled subtly inward, creating just enough of a barrier. I didn't slow. I didn't stop. A crew member in a navy blazer stepped forward, clipboard in hand. She glanced once at me, then smiled with practiced ease. "Welcome aboard, Ms. Ward," she said, voice clear and precise. "The owner is now aboard." No one clapped, but no one spoke either. I gave a small nod and stepped onto the yacht, the manila folder firm under my arm. The teak deck beneath my shoes felt solid, real, like something I built, not borrowed. I didn't look back. I walked past the floral arrangements Portia had chosen to impress, past the curated tables with name cards and eucalyptus runners. No one offered me a drink. No one asked if I needed help with my bag. That was fine. I hadn't come to be hosted. I passed through the main salon down the portside hall and out to the aft deck. There, finally alone, I let my shoulders drop not in exhaustion but in return. The sea stretched quiet around us, and inside that quiet I heard the voice again, this time from above, steady and respectful. "We're ready to depart once we receive your clearance, Ms. Ward." I turned, met her eyes, and said, "Proceed." I was seated in the lounge, legs crossed, lemon tea in hand, when I heard Portia's voice take on that performance pitch she always used when a camera was rolling. "Hi, everyone," she said brightly, holding her phone just above eye level to catch the best light. "We're so thrilled to continue the Ward family tradition out on the water again. There's nothing like the open sea to remind you of where you come from and what legacy really means." The words were smooth, sugar-coated, each one designed to sound casual but carry weight. I didn't move. I didn't look up. I just sipped. She kept going. "Family isn't just who you're born to, it's who shows up. Loyalty, love, shared history. That's what matters." Then, like punctuation from the universe, a voice rang out behind her, loud enough to land inside the stream. "We're honored to have you aboard again, Ms. Ward, the owner." It wasn't shouted. It didn't need to be. Portia's arm dropped just an inch. Her face didn't falter, but the edges stiffened. Her smile stuck too wide, too fixed. She paused mid-sentence. And then the comments started. "Wait, she's the owner." That shift to tell us more about Ms. Ward, Portia explained. The hearts and likes were replaced with question marks and side eyes. She tapped the screen rapidly, fumbling to end the feed or mute it or maybe reverse time. But the moment had already landed. I didn't flinch, didn't gloat. I let the silence do the explaining. Callista, Jonas's cousin, slipped into the seat beside me, casually flipping through her phone. I give it 5 minutes before she tries to spin that she whispered. I didn't answer. I just set my tea down gently, the cup resting on its saucer like punctuation. Above deck, I could still hear the hum of the boat and the low, fractured voices of people adjusting their narrative. I already knew whose voice would carry next. The dining salon glowed in soft candlelight, every detail manicured from the folded napkins to the sprigs of rosemary at each place setting. Portia stood near the head of the table, her glass raised just high enough to command the room. She smiled, like nothing had cracked, like the earlier live stream hadn't shifted the air. "I just want to thank everyone for being here." She began, her voice polished, her eyes sweeping the room without ever landing on me. "It's not just the setting or the tradition, it's the people, the ones who protect our legacy, who understand what it takes to uphold it." The room nodded, a few murmured approvals drifting between wine glasses. "We only bring those who add to our story," she continued, "not subtract from it." That was the line, the coded message that wasn't even subtle anymore. I stood slowly. No clink of glass, no apology. "I'd like to contribute something," I said. Portia's smile twitched just a flicker. I set the folder on the table, flipped it open with care, and slid out a printed transcript on company letterhead. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. "This is from a Zoom call with the family's legal consultant," I said evenly. "Here's the quote. She's not blood. She shouldn't own a family asset." Silence. Even the clinking stopped. Jonas stared at the document like it might combust. "Portia, you said that he asked too quiet." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I laid down a second page. "This is the original purchase agreement. The down payment came from my account." The legal owner listed first me. Aunt Evelyn shifted in her chair. A cousin cleared their throat. No one reached for their wine. "I'm not sharing this for drama," I said. "I'm sharing it because I've listened to stories get rewritten at this table for years without correction." Someone at the far end, Mr. Hannity, one of Jonas's family's oldest friends, spoke gently. "I think we've all been told the wrong story." Heads began to turn. Eyes that had glanced past me now landed fully. I didn't push further. I just gathered the papers, slid them back into the folder, and took my seat again without ceremony. Jonas didn't say a word, but his silence was no longer safe. Portia didn't come down for breakfast. Her chair sat empty, napkin untouched, the place card still angled just so beside the floral centerpiece. No one mentioned her absence but the space where she should have been said enough. The others were quieter that morning. No scripted laughter, no overperformed toasts, just the sounds of cutlery and cautious glances. Aunt Evelyn poured me coffee without speaking, her hand steadier than usual. Across the table, Jonas's cousin Maddie offered a half smile, the kind that carried something heavier than apology. No one said they were sorry, but no one acted like I didn't exist either. Later, Jonas found me near the stern, leaning against the rail. He stepped beside me, not too close, but near enough to be heard over the wind. "I should have said something," he said after a long pause. "Every time she cut you out, every time you came to me with a look and I said, 'Just let it go.'" I kept my eyes on the water. "You didn't erase me," I said, calm and measured, "but you didn't stop them either." He nodded once. I thought I was keeping the peace, he added, more to himself. I turned toward him, not angry, just done. "You kept her peace, not mine." He didn't defend it. He just stood there, letting the truth settle between us like mist. The rest of the day moved slowly, but with weight. People didn't avoid me. They didn't fawn either. They simply acknowledged with a touch to the shoulder, a second longer eye contact, a question asked directly instead of around me. Presence didn't need an invitation anymore. That night, as the sun dipped behind the marina and the last of the table was cleared, I returned to my cabin and placed the folder on the desk. Not to reread it, just to know it was still there. And then I opened my inbox to find one message waiting, sent from an old address I hadn't seen in months. The house felt different when I stepped inside. Not because anything had changed, but because I had. Same stack of unread magazines by the console table. Same scuff on the doorframe. But there was space in the silence now room that hadn't been there before. I placed the manila folder in the drawer beneath the credenza. Not hidden, not displayed. Just stored like a finished chapter. Later that evening, while sorting old mail, I found it wedged between a grocery list and a torn envelope, a note in my father's handwriting, blocky, neat, intentional. "Don't wait for a chair. Build the table." I sat with it for a long time, thumb grazing the edge. I didn't remember when he gave it to me. Maybe after some quiet dinner where I'd nodded too much and spoken too little. But he must have noticed. He always did. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Mira, Portia's youngest niece. 23. Always watching, never speaking. I hope it's okay that I'm reaching out, she wrote. I've been thinking about everything on that trip. You're the only one in the family who built something herself. Not inherited, not married into. You made it. I'm applying to this business mentorship program and I was wondering if you'd look over my application. I typed back one word, yes. No hesitation, no expectations. Just yes. By Thursday, I had a guest list not for another formal dinner, but for brunch. Simple, light, real. I didn't invite everyone. Not out of spite, just clarity. Only those who saw me, who stayed after the silence. Jonas offered to cook the eggs. Callista brought lemon bars. Ronald came with his wife and a bottle of sparkling cider. Mira showed up early, notebook in hand. We sat around my dining table secondhand and refinished with mismatched chairs and real conversation. No one recorded it. No one performed. It wasn't the table they tried to keep me from. It was the one I had built. And as the laughter drifted through the open window, I heard a soft knock at the front door. The brunch didn't start with a toast. It started with someone laughing mid-sentence while peeling strawberries. Callista had brought too much lemon zest for the tarts, and Ronald couldn't stop sneaking extra spoonfuls of whipped cream onto his plate. Mira sat beside me asking questions with the kind of hunger I recognized not for food, but for direction. There were no cameras, no centerpieces curated for Instagram, just chipped mugs, second helpings, and voices overlapping in a way that didn't compete, just belonged. Jonas cleared the plates without being asked. He didn't announce it. He just stood, gathered the stack, and headed for the sink. I watched him from the doorway as he rinsed each one's slow and steady sleeves rolled up like he remembered how to be in a room without performance. He caught my eye once, didn't say anything, didn't need to. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was presence, and that mattered more than any speech he could have rehearsed. I sat back down at the table and looked around, not as a guest, not as someone who was finally allowed in, but as someone who had built the space she was standing in. Not borrowed it, not begged for it, built it. Every story shared that morning came with pauses, laughter interruptions, detours. Nothing was polished. Everything was honest. I didn't need a spotlight to feel seen. I didn't need their permission to feel rooted. Later, after the last glass was washed and the leftovers packed into mismatched containers, Jonas handed me a towel to dry. His hand brushed mine, no plea, no performance, just there. And in the quiet that followed, I felt something settle. Not victory, but authorship. And as the front door clicked shut behind the last guest, I turned to face the hallway and the unopened envelope waiting near the credenza. I slid the manila folder into the bottom drawer of the hallway credenza, not to reopen, not to rehash, just to know it was there, filed not under conflict but memory. Once a month now, I host a small circle in the sunroom. Women come with notebooks, resumes, rough drafts of ideas no one else ever took seriously. We drink coffee from mismatched mugs, talk about money without apology, and write goals in pen, not pencil. Mira always brings a new question. Callista helps facilitate. Sometimes Jonas sits quietly at the edge of the room, not to take up space, but to hold it steady. No one at that table asks for proof I belong there. They know. And I've stopped trying to shrink myself to fit chairs never meant for me. This table, the literal one, sanded and stained with my own hands, holds more than plates and papers. It holds legacy I authored, not inherited, not granted, built. They tried to erase me, but they forgot who designed the page, and now the ink is permanent.